Hello there folks, and welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash, and I am of course your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. Now today you join me in the woods, you can hear the birds, for something of an update, because I provided a video for you some weeks or months ago in which I talked about beginning my journey to try and find a Rolex Explorer 1, the new model just brought out by Rolex earlier in the spring of 2021, and I wanted to bring it into my collection. And you know, it is extremely difficult to buy a new professional range Rolex in this modern era. So I thought I'd bring you an update of my journey to reducing that watch into my ownership, because nothing goes smoothly. It doesn't matter who you are. I've bought a few watches over the years, and this one is just as challenging. So I thought I would let you know how the hunt is going. Well, after we spoke that particular day, I thought I will arrange to spread my tentacles to as many authorised dealers as I can and let them all know that I'd be interested in buying that watch. There's nothing wrong with that. I think as long as when you get a watch you tell the other dealers that you've made inquiries with that you no longer require it, there's no problem. You know, you're just spreading your opportunities to find the piece that you want. Nothing wrong with asking more than one location. So they were all different types of authorised dealers, and I thought I'd share the experience with you because it might help you in your own journey to buy a Rolex, because we all know how difficult it is to buy one of these watches at the moment. So my first journey took me to Cardiff. Now I'm not going to mention the names of any of the authorised dealers here today. I don't think that's fair. They're not here to make observations about my visits and my experiences. So I'll just tell you that I went to a place in Cardiff, which is the capital city of Wales, about 40 miles from my home, and the shop I visited on a Saturday afternoon was a branch of the largest watch retailer in the UK. Okay, so that might give you a hint. I walked into that store. It was Saturday, it was quite busy. I was held at the door by the security guard whilst they summoned a sales agent to assist me. That took about 10 minutes, just about as long as I was prepared to wait, to be honest. Then a chap came over, young man, you know, stylishly dressed in a shiny polyester suit. He took me over, stood me at a counter. There was no offer of a chair. He didn't introduce himself by name, and he basically said, "What do you want?" So I said I was interested in a Rolex Explorer 1. And straight away, you know, glazed look comes over his eyes, because he knows he's not going to get a sale. There is no commission in this guy today. So interest sort of waned away almost entirely, and he said, "You know, that's a really tough watch to get. Is there anything else you fancy?" And I said, "Well, no, I've come in here to buy a Rolex Explorer, or certainly to express my interest in it. So what's your process? Do you have a waiting list? You know, what's the protocol in this store? Because they're all slightly different." And he said, "Well, you know, you could go on the list, but it could be a very long wait." And really, he was non-committal, not interested. And it was at that point I decided I'm not going to buy a watch from here, even if they had one and could promise me one next week. You know, such was the poor level of service. I thought, why would I bother? You know, I'll take my money somewhere else. Quite early on in the conversation, the young chap said to me, "Have you ever bought a watch from us before, sir?" And I said, "Well, yes, I have bought a watch from, you know, the chain, which is a national brand, but I said not from this particular store." And he accepted that. That was fine. But as I say, the experience didn't go well, and I left, you know, and I didn't leave my details. I didn't go on any of their waiting lists, if there is such a thing. I walked away, and I will never buy a watch from that store again because of the level of service I received. So a few days later, you know, and I'm not in any way, you know, making a hurried attempt here. I'm slowly, you know, expressing my interest at authorised dealers when I encounter them. I'm not, you know, stalking them or anything like that. So sometime later, I was in a regional shopping centre, a mall, shall we say, in the southwest of England. Those of you who live in the area will know what I'm talking about. And there is another branch of the same national brand, which is in that shopping centre. It's called something different because that group called different shops different things. But I went into that shop and wasn't expecting much, but The difference between night and day is the difference in the service I received. I walked in, I was met by a young gentleman who introduced himself by name. I said I was interested in a Rolex watch. He invited me to sit down. We had a lovely conversation about the Rolex watch I was interested in. Quite early on, he asked me if I'd bought a watch from them before. I understand what they're saying, you know, they're trying to gauge whether you're an existing customer or not. And I said, yes, I had. In fact, the last watch I'd purchased was a Rolex GMT Master 2, and I bought it in that store some 6 months before. So I was a recent, not a high value customer, you know, but I'd spent some money there and they knew I was a serious watch collector. So we had a nice conversation. The young chap was interested in watches. He was wearing an Omega Seamaster. We had a conversation. He pulled his laptop out and said, right, we'll put you on the list and we'll get that watch to you as soon as we possibly can. And yeah, it was a really thoroughly good experience. I left that store knowing that they will ring me if a watch comes in and they can service my request as soon as they can. I popped in there about a month later, not long ago actually, and I just reminded them that I'm still here and I'm waiting for that watch. I asked, you know, generally, have any of these watches come into stock yet? Because they've only been released in the spring of this year. And I've seen them being pictured on Facebook forums and the like. And he said, yep, they're coming through. And as soon as your name is, you know, in the right place on the list, you'll get the call. So I'm happy with that. They know I'm interested. I've been in to confirm my interest. I'm a previous customer. We're all happy. Great stuff. See the difference between that first experience within the same sort of national chain? It's all about the human interaction. So sometime later, I'm walking down the street in a large town near to where I live. I'm lucky, I live within a short distance of 4 authorised dealers of Rolex. So I'm walking down the street and I walk past a jeweller's store. Now this is slightly different. I believe it's a family-run group of 4 stores in the southwest of England. I have previously bought a Rolex Datejust in the shop I'm about to walk into. So I walk in, there's somebody else in the store being served. There's only a couple of sales agents, so I sit down and have a wait. Quite happy to do that. In fact, a young chap was collecting a Rolex GMT Master 2, a root beer, so it was nice to see the joy on his face and the way he was talking about such a beautiful watch. It was worth sitting to watch that alone. So when the agent were free, they called me forward and I had a chat with the sales agent. And he asked me what I wanted. Explorer 1, just been released, 36mm. And he says to me, have you seen one of those watches, sir? I said, well, no, I haven't actually. They've just been released. And he said, it's quite small, you know. Now, of course, I'd looked at what the chap was wearing when I sat down. I always try and profile the people I meet. And he was wearing a Bremont watch, you know, a big old 44mm piece. Quite a large unit, far too big for I could possibly wear. So, you know, he's a man who likes larger watches. So he says to me, you know, that 36mm watch, that's kind of a lady's watch. Are you sure you want that? Well, as I was sitting there, I was wearing a 36mm Datejust, the one I'd actually bought at that shop years before. And I said, yeah, I'm comfortable. That's the watch for me. I'm wearing one which is, you know, in practical effect, the same size. But he tried to talk me out of it. And he, you know, and he made reference to this more than once. And I got the suspicion that he thinks it's a very difficult watch to get and they'd find it difficult to service my request. So I think he was surreptitiously trying to steer me perhaps towards something else, perhaps something in stock. But I said, no, I'm only interested in that Explorer 1. You know, I'm a collector. I want that in my collection. What's the protocol here? Do you have a list? And he said, yeah, we have a list. So he produces a form, a written form, and I filled it in. I recall at the end of the form, there was a little paragraph which said, you know, if I buy the watch, I make a promise that I will not sell it for 12 months after I take ownership of it, which I thought was interesting. It's not a problem for me. I have no intention of selling any of the watches I buy. They're all bought for my own, you know, enjoyment and consumption. So, yeah, I signed that and I said, well, any ideas? How long we're going to talk about? He said, well, we can't really say. We don't know when they're going to come in, what numbers they're going to come in. There's lots of market factors affecting it. Obviously, we service people who are higher up on the list first, but as soon as one comes in, we'll let you know. And yeah, once again, slightly unusual conversation with the agent. He was trying to tell me his taste of watches, really, and steering me away from what I liked, which was interesting. But I didn't have a problem with that. You know, I love the human interaction with the agents. So off I went. I'm on the list, and, you know, hopefully they will sort me out. So my final visit to an authorised dealer, the fourth one, and the best, I have to say, took place earlier this week. Again, I was on a day off work, and I was walking through the beautiful city of Bath, and I went in to see probably my favourite jewellers which I ever go to, and yeah, it was a much better experience. And in fact, as I walked out of the store, I made a little video on my mobile phone by way of an update. So I'll just show you that. Alright folks, so just a very quick update. I've been into one of my absolute favourite authorised dealers in the beautiful city of Bath. I had a very nice and lengthy conversation with one of the sales agents about the Rolex Explorer, and high demand, that's for sure. I was quoted initially an estimated waiting time of 2 to 3 years as a worst case scenario, but they were very gracious. They had a watch in stock which was awaiting its intended owner to come and collect it. So they allowed me to try it on, get hands-on with it, look at it, take a few photos, so I was sure it fitted my wrist, which is of course something not offered in many places because they don't have the pieces in stock. But it was great to get, you know, hands-on with the watch and know that it's something I want and will fit. They've assured me that if they can expedite that waiting process, because I'm an existing, you know, customer and live not too far away, they will attempt to do so, but no promises. I fully understand that. And yeah, a really great service, even though there's no guarantees they can provide me with a watch. But you know, customer service really counts in the luxury world, does it not? So just an update there. Quite a long potential waiting list, but you never know, something may come up sooner. So that video was made immediately after I left the store. You can see the store in the background. I'm not going to mention any names, but that particular store is one I have had great experiences in. It's a single family-owned one unit, so one jewellery store. It's I think it's been in family ownership for something like 5 or 6 generations. I've met the people, the family involved, as I've been a customer for a number of years. I've even been invited to some of their promotional events, you know, where they've taken us to a hotel, laid on a dinner and showed you some of the new pieces they've had in stock. Over the years, I have bought 2 Rolex watches, 1 Tudor watch, and I've also bought some diamond jewellery for my wife at that store. I know some of the sales agents by name. They are incredibly helpful, and the young lady who helped me on this particular occasion, again, very helpful. She was actually wearing an Explorer 1 wristwatch, but the 39mm model, the older model. So we had a great conversation about the watch and what I thought its virtues were. And you know, as I said in the video, she was incredibly helpful. She didn't need to, but she said, "Have you seen one of these watches? Have you tried it on?" "No, we've got one in the back." She went and brought it out. She left it with me on the counter for a little while. She went off and did some other things. So I was able to look at the watch, try it on my wrist, take some photos to make sure the proportions worked for me. I knew they were going to, but it's just really nice to have the confidence to say, "I've seen it, I love it, I'd like to buy it." So they put me on their list, electronic list in that particular case. They quoted, unfortunately, a fair bit of time, you know, 2 or so years. But I queried it actually, and I said, really, you know, is it really going to take that long? Because on a previous occasion at that store, I was quoted quite a long wait for another piece, which actually came a lot quicker. And she said, "Well, you know, I give you the worst case scenario. If we can service your order faster than that, we absolutely will do so. Particularly as you're local, you've bought from us before. You know, if somebody drops out or an extra piece comes into stock, we'll get it to you as soon as possible." And yeah, I was delighted. And of all of the stores I've visited and expressed an interest, if I had any choice at all, I would spend my money in that store, because the customer service is first class. The quality of the experience is excellent. I have, you know, absolute nothing but the greatest of admiration for the people who work there. It's an overall superb experience. And when it comes to business, all right, when I'm spending my money on a luxury item, let's be honest, luxury, nobody needs a luxury watch, right? I don't have to have it, I would like it. So when it comes to luxury purchases, I go to where I get the best service, where I get the best experience. And I will always support independent family jewelers over any national chain or larger sort of regional chain. So I thought I'd keep you up to date on that journey. As it stands, we are a little closer to getting that Rolex Explorer 1, in so much as I'm now on the sort of waiting list, if we call it that, at 3 Rolex authorised dealers, all relatively local to me. One dealer I'll never go to again because the service was so poor. The other 3, I've previously bought watches in those stores, and I'd be happy to do so again because of the human interaction. So there we go. Quick update. We're still on the hunt. Next time we meet and talk about this subject, it'll probably be me telling you I've got it on the wrist. Hopefully. Let's see. Let's see how long it takes. Well, there we go. I hope you've enjoyed this little catch up. If you have, give us a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see more of our watch material or any more of our general content on men's style. And I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Until then, take care.